Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, and this is We're All Over the Map with my Tinfoil Hat Friday. So we'll get into this, lots of stuff to talk about, and that is the name of the Friday show. I'm all over the map with my tinfoil hat. That is the name of the show. And I can't tell you who came up with the names because I'll get sued, just joking. But we'll get into that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Here's the hard truth, folks. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by 2031. And you see it every time you fill up your tank, buy groceries, pay the bills. Prices are up, your dollar is down. Folks, there's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something tangible and real, something proven. It's gold, an asset that holds its value over time. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar as a thank you. Head to noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. noblegoldinvestments.com. Don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. Folks, there's always a risk with any type of financial action like this, or I should say transaction, but I'm glad that we invested in gold. And you know what? I'm not a soothsayer here, but it definitely could go over 4,000. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Remember, there's always a risk, but we invested in Noble Gold, and I'm really glad we did. Thanks for joining us today, and we're going to start right off. I forget who sent this to me. Very, very interesting. I don't think it was Mondo Gonzalez, but Mondo and I have talked about this, but I apologize for not, keeping track of all this. But listen to this. The series of smaller mounds extending from the Great Mound to the eastward has long since been entirely removed. So is the greater number of other similar mounds which once stood immediately below the southern city limits. So we're talking once again about the mysterious mounds that are all throughout the Midwest. Ohio in particular had 10,000 mounds. I want to thank our friend of the show, Fritz Zimmerman, because without Fritz, I wouldn't be doing this. So let's continue. Those which remain are fast disappearing before the march of civilization, but sand, of which they are principally composed, being in demand for building and other purposes. Indian tradition says that these mounds were built in ancient times by a people of whom they, the First Nation people, the Indians, know nothing about, and for whom they have no name, that the mounds were occupied by the Tuetal Indians and subsequently by the Wyandots, but were constructed long before their time. These facts were ascertained by me in the year of 1869, when I was further informed that the Indians had been absorbed by the Six Nations, and if any survived, it is among them they must be looked for. So what's amazing about this is once again, this goes back before modern-day archaeology, and this is what the oral tradition of Native Americans state. So we know that the powers that be stated this, that Native Americans built all the mounds but they just forgot that they had done so. So who's wearing the tinfoil hat now? You tell me. What's the truth? This is why we have the petition, lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. The petition is there. What we're demanding is transparency. What we want to know is, what do you have in the basement of these museums? Why? Because the museums, for the most part, are run on taxpayer dollars. Your taxpayer dollars, my taxpayer dollars. And yet, we have no access to any of these things, right? We have no idea what's in them. And the Darwinian paradigm is all throughout these establishments. They don't hand you a pamphlet about Darwinism when you walk in the door. I get that. But nevertheless, it's there. So this is pushback. Sign the petition. Once we get 100,000 names, we'll send it up and we'll see what happens. So there you go with that. Let me remove the tinfoil hat here. Thank you very much. Just stick that right there. Okay, this is really interesting. How NASA may have just pinpointed the exact day of that Jesus died, April 3rd, 33 AD. NASA scientists have calculated the date a lunar eclipse occurred in AD 33 that may pinpoint the day of Jesus' crucifixion. In Genesis 1, we read that God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." What's interesting about this, my business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and our new Shroud film, which will be released momentarily, actually, it's basically done. So, we've got a pre-sale. I know, shameless plug. But, that's how we keep the lights on here, okay? And Gil did the opening of the film is "Let There Be Light." And then from there was a whole montage. He did a really good job. Hats off to you, Gil, if you're watching this. Okay, so it's not surprising there would be at least one sign in the heavens to mark the death of Jesus as a sacrifice for the sins of the world. The New York Post reported that NASA's astronomical models suggest that a lunar eclipse turned the moon red, get this, over Jerusalem on Friday, April 3rd, 33 AD, a date many scholars tie to Jesus' death. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, we read, "Now from a 6-hour noon, there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour." So you're looking at 3 hours of darkness. But extra-biblical texts indicate that in addition to this daytime darkness, a blood moon occurred the night of Jesus' death. At his crucifixion, the sun was darkened. The stars appeared, and in all the world people lighted lamps from the 6th hour till evening. The moon appeared like blood. And it goes on from there. Let me continue. The Bible Answer site Got Questions reported that AD 33 is likely the year of Jesus' crucifixion, based on a prophecy in the book of Daniel. If you've not read this is amazing. Daniel 9, the prophet writes of being visited by the angel Gabriel, while he and his fellow Jews were being held in Babylonian captivity. Gabriel told him that from the time that a decree comes to rebuild Jerusalem, the temple of Jerusalem, is issued until the anointed one, Jesus, is cut off, will be 69 weeks of years, or 483 years. The whole idea, and this is lost for the most part in a lot of the Christian churches, when Jesus comes riding in on what we call Palm Sunday, that's it. That is literally to the day. He's coming in fulfilling the prophecy of Daniel. So if it wasn't him, who was it? Because, if you're a Jew and you're watching this and you think, okay, Marzulli's, he's in my book now, Daniel. But there it is. So how do you reconcile that? Just think about that. The prophecy of Daniel, and I'll say it again, Gabriel told Daniel that from the time of the decree to rebuild Jerusalem is issued until the Messiah, the anointed one, is cut off, will be 69 weeks of years, 483 years. King Artaxerxes of Persia issued the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, converting the 360-day lunar calendar used by the ancient Jews. 483 years becomes 476 years on our solar calendar. Adjusting for the switch from BC to AD, 476 years after places us at AD 33, which would coincide with Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. How do you square that? There it is. It's right there. It's prophecy that's fulfilled. As the late Chuck Missler said, Jesus arranges it. Can you imagine being told, go into the city, you're going to see a colt that's tied up, and take the colt, and when the master comes out, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Just tell them the master has need of it. Seriously? That's like, go down to the 7-Eleven, you'll see a brand new Lexus with the engine running and the keys in it. Hop in the front seat, and when the owner comes out of the 7-Eleven and yelling at you, "Hey, you're stealing my car," just say the master has need of it, but there's no humor in the Bible. Seriously? So let's continue. The prophecy in Daniel 9 specifies that after the completion of the 483 years, the anointed one will be cut off. This was fulfilled when Jesus was crucified. So the deal is this. How can you look at this passage of Scripture and somehow tap dance around that and say, well, there it is? It's right there, the book of Daniel. The late Dallas Theological Seminary professor, Harold Honer, calculated April 3rd, AD 33, as the date of Jesus' crucifixion in his seminal book, The Chronological Aspects of the Life of Christ. employing the Daniel prophecy. And it goes on from there. I just find this absolutely incredible. So isn't it amazing that here we are almost 2,000 years after the fact, and NASA is pinpointing that, gee, there might have been a blood moon, according to our models. So, do with that what you will. Let's move on here. And I've got camera 2 going. I've got a little bit of a slideshow happening today, but I want to, before I close with that, let's get into this. We've had some feedback on Doug Recker's show, and basically everyone is trying to say that what Doug heard was a Sasquatch. It's that roar. And I've been on some sites, other sites which people gave me, YouTube sites, and sure enough, I mean, it's a roar. And this is from Kylon. I know what a big cat bear sounds like, and I'm from the country, and I've hunted almost all my life. The walking I hear in the woods of my house, we live in the mountains, it's no kind of animal, I'm telling you. That's a fact, sir. And I feel uneasy presence. He feels an uneasy presence in the woods. I feel like there was something watching, and it's near. And, he would go in and talk about this. So this gentleman has had an encounter with a Squatch. Here's a question. I was just wondering, because I was eating these big, round, juicy grapes, which I assumed to be genetically modified or beautifully crossbred. What are your thoughts about the grapes that are in the land of Canaan? Now, when the spies come in to the land for the first time, they say they take a huge cluster of grapes, and 2 men have to carry them. And to do that, they have a pole, and then the cluster of grapes. When I was in Jerusalem, in the old city, they've got all these little shops with all these little knickknacks and bric-a-brac and stuff. And the bottom line is, you see that. You see that the spies with the 2 guys, they have these little statuettes with a huge cluster of grapes. The enemy, the fallen one, is messing with the genome, and he did it way back in the days of Noah. Chimeras are real. The breeding between animals and humans, which is happening right now, people have talked about it. It's happening. Chimeras are being made. For the most part, they destroy the chimeras. At least that's what we're told. But you go back into ancient Greek mythology, centaurs, minotaurs. Is that just Greek mythos? Or is it based on something that's real? In my opinion, just like the grapes, the fallen ones were mixing their seed, were creating chimeras. This is why the flood of Noah happened. Watch your program this evening with the Sasquatch recordings and wanted to share my experience. About 6 or 7 years ago, I heard what I believe had to have been a Sasquatch. It was about 11:30 at night. I heard one roar that sounded semi-human, but the pitch was much deeper than a human being can create. The volume was much louder than humanly possible, and the duration was several seconds longer, much longer than what I heard in tonight's show, and indicated a large lung capacity. The sound came from up the street, within 100 feet. I absolutely froze in my tracks. I wanted to look out the window, but I didn't want whatever it was to see me. I have never heard it again since, and I don't want to either. Also, I had a friend who lived up the street at the edge of the woods. She is with the Lord now. But this was a couple of years before I heard the roar. She was in her 80s and a retired school teacher, sharp as a tack until she passed. She used to have her morning coffee in the summer at an octagonal-shaped picnic bench in the summer. One morning she saw a small animal that she could not identify. She knew it was not a gopher or a groundhog or a bear. We surmised it might have been a baby Sasquatch. She only saw it for a couple of minutes before it wandered back into the woods. Thank you, Lindy, for sending that. Very interesting. And here we go again. This is from Anthony. Thinker Thunker has a YouTube channel. I just love those nom de plumes, as it were. Thinker Thunker has a YouTube channel he put through Bigfoot Howls, a computer program that analyzes the vocalizations and shows vocalization graphs, can compare them to any animal, large cats, dogs, wolves, apes. And then, the gentleman continues from there. But he believes that, like I do, and like Doug Recker, that what he saw or what Doug has on tape is a Sasquatch. So let's go over to camera 2. This is in the news today, 8647. So that is when you 86 someone, you basically remove them, right? Oh, he was 86 from the club, never allowed back in there. So this was allegedly from former FBI Director James Comey, who we know is absolutely no fan of Trump. And 47 is Trump, is number 47. He's the 47th president. What are we looking at here, folks? What are we looking at? In my opinion, that's a veiled threat. That's a veiled threat. And I just hope Pam Bondi and others of her ilk get to the bottom of this. I mean, the vitriol has to stop. Comparing Trump to Hitler has to stop. That is a ridiculous comparison. Bruce Springsteen jumping up and down, and I like Bruce Springsteen's music, but, comparing, we have a threat. What was it? Dick Cheney comes up. It's the greatest threat to our republic. Okay, so that's a statement. So show me how that's happening. How is that happening? Because Elon Musk is looking into the excess spending from our taxpayer dollars, the ridiculous amounts of money spent on what? So somehow that's not a good thing? Don't you want to know where your taxpayer dollar is going? What about removing all these illegal aliens that came into the country under the last administration, under the Biden administration? That's somehow a bad thing? What if it's your son, your daughter, your wife that gets killed by one of these people who's been deported 3 or 4 times and has a long criminal rap sheet? What do you say? Of course, we don't hear their voices, do we? We only hear the resounding, echo chamber of the left, name calling and saying, this isn't a good thing to do, blah, blah, blah. Come here. Look, my great-grandparents came here in 1898. My grandmother was a little girl when she came over. 1898. I've actually seen, and I have it somewhere, the signature, the names on Ellis Island. That's how you come in. And I granted, immigration needs to be reformed, so it's easier. But we can't just let it. Let's flip it. If we took a busload of people and just drove to Mexico, right, and walk into Mexico City, hey, we want to live here. Do you think the Mexican government would allow that, or the Italian government would allow it? What about if we just went over to Germany? It's, we like it here and we want to stay. What do you think would happen? What do you think would happen? But somehow in this country, how many millions of people did they bring into the country? We have no idea. We have no idea. And we can't vet them. How do we know who these people are? So anyway, that's 8647. And this is Lady Gaga. And Lady Gaga's recent Mayhem in the Desert tour, which appeared first at Coachella 2025, has sparked discussions and controversy regarding its imagery and themes, with some critics labeling it as demonic or satanic. So let's just walk through this. On camera 2 now, we have a picture of Lady Gaga. First of all, I'm not going to disparage her. She's not here to, defend herself in any way. We should pray for her. This is a very disturbing picture. I would not show my 4-year-old granddaughter this picture. I would not show anyone under 18 this picture. Why is she dressed like this? I'm just asking a question. Why is she dressed like this? Here's a breakdown of the different perspectives of the tour. The show is constructed in the 4-act with a large theatrical set resembling a demonic opera house. Why is it always the demonic opera house? Why is it always these dark imageries of vampires, of ghouls? It featured dark and gothic imagery, including crimson lighting, intense choreography, and references to blood and confinement, which evoked the visual styles of Gaga's past albums like The Fame Monster and Born This Way. Some critics interpreted the imagery and themes as satanic rituals or demonic and accused Lady Gaga of promoting evil. Well, here's the second picture. So what does that look like to you? It certainly isn't Winnie the Pooh, all right? And look, she's got the right to do whatever she wants to do, to create a performance or a show. And, you look at these people and they're basically ghouls, and here we are. But I have a right, because I have free speech, at least right now, to say, hey, wait a minute, what are we really looking at here? What is this woman promulgating? Lady Gaga's artistic intent. Lady Gaga is known for her provocative and theatrical performances, often exploring themes of transformation, vulnerability, and the complexities of fame. Her performance at Coachella could be interpreted as a commentary on the mayhem of fame and a reclaiming of her signature style through bold theatrical and introspective means. Some argue that the dark imagery is not meant to endorse evil, but to confront societal fears and challenge norms, particularly those surrounding powerful women. Lady Gaga, I'm not sure I'm buying that one. Lady Gaga's fans often referred to as little monsters. Why would you? Why? Do you want to be a monster? I know I don't. I don't want to be a Frankenstein or a Wolfman or a Dracula. I don't want to be a monster or a mummy. Okay, let's continue. Lady Gaga's fans, often referred to as little monsters, generally embrace her theatrical and unconventional style, viewing it as this is great, viewing as a form of artistic expression. Some fans even playfully celebrated the satanic and blasphemous elements of the performance, recognizing it as a return to Gaga's signature aesthetic. Lady Gaga's Coachella performance and the subsequent mayhem in the desert tour has sparked debate due to its dark and gothic imagery. While some critics have interpreted it as demonic or satanic, others view it as a form of artistic expression that challenges societal norms and explores complex themes related to fame, blah, 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 blah. So basically, I'm just going to show you a couple of more shots here. Here's another one. So why do that? Why get dressed up like that? Could you imagine if I appeared in a suit like that? Coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the... Can you imagine? It's deliberate, folks. That's all I'm saying. You know, when people do things, they are sending a signal. When she looks like this, she is sending a signal. We need to pray for this woman, not castigate her. And here's the deal. You know, it's like when we see this, we recoil, but then we need to pray. We need to pray because, you know, she has a soul, just like you and I do. She has a soul. And that soul, even if it's surrendered to dark forces, can be flipped and turned to the Lord, turned to Jesus. Let's look at this. This is from the Bloody Mary video. So, I mean, do you want your 13-year-old looking at any of this? Let me just scroll through it again from the top, all right? Here it is. So you have a 13-year-old or a 16-year-old, and they're on YouTube, and you don't know what they're watching? Hello, right? Your grandkids. I mean, seriously, this is not, you know, John Paul, George, and Ringo singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand." This is in your face. And in my opinion, it's very dark. The imagery is very Luciferian, very satanic, and I would definitely speak against it, which is what we're doing here. We need to pray for her. So, Father, we lift up Lady Gaga, and we pray for salvation. We pray, Father, that you would flip the script here and that she would come to a knowledge of you, that she would get out if she's being handled or managed, that she would get out. We just pray for salvation over her, Lord. And I know you can do that. I know that no one is, as long as there's breath, no one is too far gone at this stage. So we just pray a blessing over her. Before I go, this came in very interesting. What you're looking at here is Aleister Crowley, who called himself the Beast 666. He was an occultist, and he was also employed by the British Army in World War II, but I digress. So today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else, Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley's drawing of Lamb, a demon that he claimed to have summoned, and the drawing is similar to what we now call the Greys. So when you look here, there's a Grey below, and there's Lamb up on top. The aliens that you may believe exist are actually interdimensional demonic spirits. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Let me just close by saying this, folks, that the UFO phenomenon is real, burgeoning, and not going away. This is the coming great deception. When we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. So this is what we're looking at. And in my opinion, This is the coming great deception because it will change everything and do it in a nanosecond. The other side of the aisle, the ancient alien guys and everybody who thinks that these are somehow extraterrestrials from some planet like Epsilon Eridani, Gary Stearman's favorite, or, whatever, or the Pleiades, this is very problematic. And the reason why I keep bringing this up is your kids and your grandkids are being indoctrinated by the ancient alien and other films, other shows, which somehow talk about this. So you say, well, why do I need to know this? Because Congress right now is discussing the whole UFO, UAP phenomena. If we have a nuclear event going off anywhere on this planet, it'll create the greatest climate of fear that humanity has ever experienced collectively. Folks, that's when they show up, in my opinion. There's absolutely no doubt about it. That's when they show up. I'm going to read you one thing. This is from our little track. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. What you are hearing is channeled information from a woman who is allowing this entity to speak through her. And allegedly, it's someone from the Pleiades, the star system. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. They have already explained away the rapture of the church. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet in an afternoon do not belong here, do not fit here any longer. That's you and that's me, if you're a born-again, spirit-filled Christian. Because, in my opinion, before the wrath happens, we get taken out. Other people will disagree with that. Noah is a type of the rapture of a church. Before the judgment comes, Noah is taken out. Before a drop of rain, Noah is removed. Before Sodom and Gomorrah are destroyed, Lot is removed. In the book of Revelation, it says, because you have been faithful, you will escape the trial coming upon the whole world. It's God's wrath. We're the bride of Christ. We're not a bloody bride, as my friend Bob Ulrich says. We're not. We have not been appointed to wrath. How many times do we have to hear that? Believe what you want to believe. I look forward to the day when there is no flesh, no sin, no death, no sting, and I can truly say, hail to the King, hail to the King, hail to the King. Before I go, run to the disclosure, folks. Here's Ashley to tell you all about how to get it.
Hey guys, I'm Ashley. Today I'm excited to introduce you to something extraordinary. L.A. Marzulli's 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure. This is not just any collection, it's your key to uncovering the hidden truths about the UFO UAP phenomenon. Did you know that UFO whistleblowers have testified on the record that not only have we recovered crafts, but we have also retrieved non-human biologics? Let that sink in. The world is waking up to a reality long dismissed as science fiction. But what does it really mean? L.A. Marzulli and Gil Zimmerman, business partner and co-producer of these documentaries, have spent years uncovering the shocking truth behind the UFO UAP phenomenon. Now, in this exclusive 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure, LA dives deep into what the mainstream media won't reveal. Close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind, real-life accounts of people who have seen the occupants of these mysterious crafts, abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles. What is truly happening behind the scenes? 2 films dedicated to the infamous Roswell crash of 1947, exploring the mysteries that have been shrouded in secrecy. And finally, his latest film, What is the Truth? Exploring the new UFO phenomena and the New Age connection. LA has interviewed top insiders Nick Pope, George Norrie, Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzalez, and more. Experts who reveal why this might be the most significant event in human history. This is the coming Great Deception. Are you ready? Go to lamarzulli.com today and get your copy of LA's 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure. Or for streaming, go to streaming.lamarzulli.net. Arm yourself with the truth before it's too late.
Thanks for watching. And we were all over the map today, as you could see. And I'm going to close by donning my tinfoil hat again. Until next Friday, when we come back with All Over the Map with my tinfoil hat, I am L.A. Marzulli, thanking you for watching and signing off.